Hi there, welcome to I Alone Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Aries energy. And we're going to do this 10 card spread, and then we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives because everybody's at kind of different emotional maturity levels. And Aries energy can be about growing up and maturing yourself, because high vibe Aries is represented by the Emperor, male or female. It talks about having learned lessons in all four suits of the deck, kind of like we go on these journeys to learn these lessons, and there might be a time in our life where we let our heart run our life, and the other three aspects of our life kind of go in the toilet because I love that or I love them. We could make our life more about the world, and so then we can disregard other aspects of our life if it's working on our career, and some of the other aspects of our life kind of go in the toilet. Our more creative, passionate nature can be more important. Anyway, eventually we learn that all four parts, in tarot we have the heart, the mind, the 3D world, and the passionate, creative nature, that they're all equally important. And when we kind of were learning these lessons in life, we might have thought one, two, or three of them were more important than some other aspects. And hopefully, as we learn lessons, we realize they're all important. So everybody's at different emotional maturity levels. So they're going to be handling what these cards are saying differently. And we all tap into Aries energy. This might be something that's more going on, or a struggle or something for uh, people who are an Aries sun sign or have significant Aries placements. Could be about making good decisions in their life, taking responsibility, growing up, maturing themselves, but we all tap into Aries energy. It's fire sign energy. It can be about what we're motivated and inspired by. Well, let's first look at it from the perspective of people who harness some high vibe Aries energy. In high vibe, the page can mean that you do have that hopeful, believing spirit. And the Page of Wands is looking at the Three of Wands, which can be, I'm going to take action to try to bring my dreams into reality. In high vibe, they're operating also from high vibe Taurus energy, which is acting with character and integrity and love, and having learned these lessons that love is to be just and fair, and so to treat other people the way I like to be treated. And it's not doing it for those reasons necessarily, it is because it is the truth of who you are. Now, we might not have always been at that stage of life because we had some lessons to learn, but we've learned that if we're more inspired by a more worldly, shadowy Taurus energy, we're going to keep repeating some patterns because we're making us or the world or image or status or something, or indulging our more immature nature, more important. So we've detached from that way of viewing life, and we're moving forward in life with the lessons that we've learned, and probably more inspired to believe in ourselves and believe in our dreams. And turning our back more on the world and things of the world. Do we still have jobs and careers and families and friendships? Yes. But it's more in Sagittarius energy of the Temperance card, that, and the Sagittarius card underneath that of the Knight of Wands, that it is underneath that, the Justice card, it's about balance. Do I want some of these things of the world? And would I like to indulge in some of these things of the world? And, things of being in the world that we want. Yes. But the Sagittarius card also talks about patience. I need to be patient. I need to balance out my emotions, keep maintaining, be inspired to maintain balance. There are things of the world that I would like to go indulge in, and I would like to have part of my life, but I don't want to repeat past patterns. And there could be a part of us that would like to repeat some past patterns. But we've learned to maintain balance in ourselves. We've learned these lessons in life. If we take action more out of indulging our more immature nature, prideful nature, lustful, greedy, blah, 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 it's probably not going to work out the way we want. And we're going to have to start all over again. So I don't want to do that. I'm inspired to take action to bring my dreams into reality. I'm no longer letting my more worldly nature, which can even be our fear and our insecurity and stuff like that, dictate our life. I am inspired to go on this adventure to get the justice I deserve. And part of that could be from the 1 wand to the 10 of wands is I have to get out of my defensiveness and be willing to deal with the truth. The world can talk about the truth, and the 10 of wands is about closing out a cycle. And I could have been defensive of closing out a cycle because there might have been people in my life at one time and people I've been working with, or say I have a job or something. But whatever it is, I have a dream I'm trying to bring into reality. And I've been being patient and I've been loving and encouraging to people in my life, in my world, treating them in a just and fair manner, acting with character and integrity, trying to bring a dream into reality that is inspired by truth, love, justice, and fairness. And I'm willing to see the truth about who are the people who are working together with me in that way, and who are the people who aren't, who are the people who might want to move forward with me in that, but like they're still harnessing their Sagittarius energy kind of maybe in a more immature way. Like, I want to come with, but oh, by the way, I want to repeat these old patterns. So, won't you keep being patient while I keep repeating some of these old patterns? Because you might have this dream you want to have come into reality with me, and because you love me, and you're maybe a very patient person, trying to act with character and integrity, want the justice, for things to turn out the way you want. Sometimes we're the ones putting in a lot of work and effort into moving a relationship forward in a more just, fair, balanced, loving way. And some of the other people in our life keep kind of repeating old patterns. So we might feel that they harness these energies in a more shadowy way. They're kind of a little more immature. They have their idea of the dream life, and this could work for them, but it's not working for us because we've kind of put an end to our more immature ways of being. We're not repeating old patterns. We're moving forward in a more balanced way, and we want other people to move forward with us in that way. And kind of seeing the truth that if some people in our life aren't moving forward with us in that way, I'm I'm not going to keep chasing after people. The world could be like have come to an end, and before, we could add people in our life that come on, let's go, come on, and it's like always being like a loving and encouraging person in their life, but they could have a lack mentality is kind of what the 5 of Pentacles talks about. And it can be people who are looking to other people. You be a loving, encouraging, and supportive person in my life, like forever, but they're not willing to balance out their own emotions and get inspired to kind of wrap their brain around how they might be kind of immature, maybe kind of bossy, controlling, don't want to learn lessons in life, but I want to come with you anyway, you know? And it's like, well, I can be loving and encouraging and supportive to people. But if they're not interested in detaching from an old way of living life or viewing life, and they want to keep repeating some of those same behaviors, they in their mind think that's just and fair, and think people, since they indulge that in themselves, they think other people should indulge them that way and let them move forward with them anyway. So, say you have a friend who you've been loving and encouraging to because you love them, or a family member, or a coworker. But you're loving and encouraging, you're hoping people will be inspired within themselves, and Aries energy is about the self, that you hope that they'll be inspired within themselves to take this action to kind of see the truth of kind of what needs to go, that they should leave behind, and that they would detach from it, learn the lesson, and see the truth. The truth sets us free. But some people are like, well, no, I want to go with you, but I don't want to, I want to put an end to having me to learn lessons. Or the fives also talk about change. I don't want to have to change. It's okay if you change, and it's okay if you get more inspired within yourself or get more balanced or work through past pain and heartbreak or whatever so that you're more balanced. But you're always supposed to be this loving and encouraging person to me, but I don't want to change. Well, eventually people tell some of those people that, we kind of have a different philosophy of life. Taurus is about our philosophy of life. And fire sign energy can be what we're motivated and inspired by. You don't seem to be inspired to really get more balance. You could get there, but then you revert back to some old patterns and you never kind of get more balance within yourself, which can be you're either more about yourself, you're kind of bossy or controlling, you do the poor, poor, pitiful me, or you keep being defensive or overwhelmed. You know, it's like teaching a person to fish. You teach them, you're willing to teach them how to fish so they can fish for themselves. That's saying teach a person to fish and they can eat forever or something. Give a man a fish they can eat for a day. And these are people who want, our shadowy nature, our more immature nature is I want reward without effort. I want you to do the work and effort. I kind of want to indulge in the relationship. So I'm not willing to get out of my ego. I'm not willing to get out of my immature nature. I'm not willing to temper my ego and admit that maybe I could benefit from seeing the truth about some things and maybe working through changing some of those things because, you know, and say it's a person who goes out in the world and gets a job, again, it's that same kind of energy. They kind of they're not inspired within themselves to work through why they can never move forward in life a little differently, kind of again close out an old way of being or an old way of thinking or an old way of perceiving themselves, or they're just defensive nature to maybe working together with people in a more just fair way. And eventually employers kind of lose patience with them and the employer moves on and they have to go find a different job. But then they go get a different job, and because shadowy energy can be our pride, our ego, our defensiveness, how we kind of indulge ourselves in our more immature nature, they start over, like go get a new job. But and for a while they can kind of walk the talk and they kind of maybe temper themselves, but then sooner or later the truth of who they really are in their philosophy of life kind of comes out. You can't hide the truth of who you are forever. And then something goes wrong with the next job, and then they go, we either keep repeating patterns over and over because we're unwilling to detach from an old way of living life, acting, feeling, thinking that isn't getting us maybe where we want to go, but we keep not wanting to see the truth. We can always think it's other people have to change. The only person we can change is us. We can go out in the world and there can be people we're attracted to, people who are kind of overwhelming, other people who are more just, fair, balanced. We're going to have to deal with all sorts of people. We can run away, we can be in our fear, we can be in our defensiveness, but is it getting us where we'd like to go? And since we can't change other people, I have to work through what it is in me that is stopping me, regardless of life circumstances, how I can quit repeating this pattern because I want justice. I want to feel more balanced within myself. So if that means, we do go get in a different job, friendship, or relationship, and the people there are kind of bossy, controlling, immature, have these ideas of what they think is just and fair, and we're like, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's just and fair. Well, you know, there's a lot of 50% of the people are probably more aligned at any given moment with their more shadowy nature of some sort. I'm bossy, I'm controlling, don't want to learn lessons, don't want to grow up, don't want to get out of my pride and ego. I'm bossy, I'm controlling, and all these people justify it because it could work for them and they think it's just and fair. And some people are looking for people who will keep being patient and kind of indulging them in their shadowy ways. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to let some other people keep working here. And if they want to kind of indulge you in this way, they can. I'm going to go look for a new job. And same way people do that in friendships and relationships. Like, yeah, this isn't my truth. Your idea, or even it could be, we could get in a friendship group and then kind of the things they like to invest their time, energy, and effort into that they enjoy might not be what we enjoy. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, I kind of thought maybe we'd also do some other things, but apparently they only like to do these things. And, it was okay, sometimes, but I thought we'd maybe kind of do other things also, but no, they just like to do this. Well, then, we can feel kind of left out in the cold. Like it's not very abundant. I thought it was going to be more abundant or more balanced than it is. And sometimes it is where it's kind of a group mentality where everybody kind of one person's like the queen bee person or queen boy person, and whatever they want to go do or whatever blah blah blah, everybody just follows their lead. And it's like high vibe energy is being able to be more independent. Everybody is respected to be more independent as their own person, as having their own unique talent, skills, and interests. Some people don't like it when people are more independent, like, get back here. You're supposed to do it this way or that way. We don't like you being more independent. Everybody, that can be shadowy Taurus too, that everybody has to conform to this way of doing things. And you need to live your life like we live life. And you need to enjoy the things that we enjoy. And we never become more independent. We never grow up. We never get out of our ego. We never get out of our defensiveness. We just balance out our emotions that we keep repeating these same patterns over and over. And you could kind of feel like, that's fine. Everybody has the free will to live their life the way they want. If that makes you happy, makes you feel stable and secure, that's how you enjoy living your life. Hey, knock your socks off. But I might feel like it's not very balanced, or sometimes we can be in relationships with people in fire sign energy. Maybe we can be really attracted to people, but maybe we could feel like it's more about sex, and it's might be abundant in sex, or it might be abundant in a lot of things of the world, but is it abundant in love? And then it's kind of like, well, gee, it might have a lot of these things that I enjoy in the world, and for a long time that could make me keep staying in it. But I have a dream, and it wasn't just to make it about me, indulgence, sex, you know. At one time, I might have thought if it was more about me, or if it just had a lot of sex, or people, you know, maybe if I indulge someone else, eventually they'd change and it would move forward a bit. But we kind of have to see the truth that everybody has their philosophy of life, and we could have people indulging us that we could be attracted to. But do they really have love for us? And they could put in a lot of work and effort and they could really want it to move forward. But it's like at a core foundational level, what the foundation is that we operate from of what more drives and motivates us. Is it motivated and inspired by love, to be inspired to learn lessons in life, to look at life as an adventure, to go through phases of life, you learn lessons, because Sagittarius is about higher learning and education. When we go through a phase of life and then we see that there could be things that are kind of overwhelming, are kind of getting repetitive. We keep doing the same things over and over. Are we all willing to kind of see the truth of it and see what needs to be let go of, and kind of face our fears about moving forward in life differently? And sometimes the people in our life, they're like, nope, if you want to do that, you can go. I'm going to keep repeating this old pattern. And it's just getting out of our ego to admit the truth that not everybody, I'm in friendship, relationship, neighborhood, family, workplace, we can all be on different pages. And with most people in our life, it doesn't matter that much. We can see who's kind of more immature, who's more bossy and controlling, who might be more about themselves, more about the world, has a lack mentality. We can work with all these different people, but kind of the people we're more inspired maybe to put work and effort with is the people who we think are more balanced and just and fair, because we kind of like to hang out with people who are kind of more on the same page as us. Can we work with other people, be loving and encouraging to other people? Yes. But, the people I'm going to invest more of my time and energy and effort into are people where I'm not the only one kind of carrying the load. And with some other people who've kind of learned these lessons and are kind of inspired to maybe help me carry the load and inspire me to love and believe in myself. If we're always filling other people's cups, it'd be nice to be in a relationship. We know how to fill our own cup emotionally, maybe, but it's still nice to be in a relationship with people who in turn fill our cup, where it isn't us always having to be loving and encouraging and support to them. And some of the people in our life like us being that type of person, but not really so much that kind of person to us. And then it can be, why do I keep defending this versus going and being in relationships with people who are more equally loving and encouraging to me? And part of it can be because we're defensive to having a new beginning. And we'd really like the things that we've invested in to work out the way that we want. But eventually, we kind of balance out our emotions about the fact that I can't make other people change. And if they have their way of viewing life, living life, and I kind of realize it's not, there can be things about it that I like and that I think are just and fair, but I just feel it's kind of lacking in, it could have a lot of some things that I like, but it's missing other things that really kind of motivate and inspire me to, and even challenge me to keep growing and healing and maturing myself. And I don't want to keep repeating an old pattern out of my defensiveness or out of my fear or the Page of Wands. We could have gotten in things when we were a more codependent energy. Well, I think we can all get in more codependent relationships when we're younger, because we haven't really learned to be inspired within ourselves to work through our own lack mentality, to balance our emotions and be inspired within ourselves to love and believe in ourselves, to be that kind of loving and encouraging person within ourselves, to just feel more balanced within ourselves. So then we can get in relationships with people for them to be that in our life or to love us. But when we get in more codependent relationships, one of the people will probably, during the course of the relationship, do that work within themselves because um, they have a dream. And we can get in relationships with people. We could all have been more codependent. We wanted to put an end to feeling left out in the cold. We wanted to be in a relationship. We could all have been hoping for the best. And we can, maybe in some ways, everybody was kind of willing to change, and we could maintain balance and go through many cycles of going to other cycles with people until we could get to a core foundational truth. And then that's when we get down to the heart of the matter of, are we in our free will more motivated and inspired to be kind of more about ourself or these things of the world and the status and the ego and the image or the indulgence or ourself? Or are we more inspired, and have we learned to love and believe in ourselves and realize that if I keep living my life like this, I'm not going to get the justice I deserve, and I maybe keep being codependent or I keep feeling overwhelmed by things, and they get inspired to do this work within themselves, and then they get more balanced. They offer the people in their life truth and love for them to move forward with them. And that, though, is you're moving forward differently and it's just maybe too far out of someone's comfort zone, it could require them to kind of change their whole philosophy of life, of how they view themselves, how they view others, how they view relationships. And shadowy Taurus type relationships can be a relationship where if someone seems to have more of what someone else in the world wants, then that person is the more indulged person in the relationship. And the other people kind of balance out their emotions about the fact that they kind of have to indulge that person. Well, love is to be just and fair, and it's not supposed to be about one person being indulged. We appreciate what everybody contributes to the relationship. Some people might bring more things of the world, other people might bring love and inspiration and creativity and make it bring the spark to it, right? And some people, though, might think, well, if I move forward with those people, yeah, they're loving and encouraging, but maybe I won't have the money or the status or the image that I want. And that's when some of those people can want to leave the relationship because the truth is they could have enjoyed the relationship, but the truth is, they're more motivated to be about themselves or these things of the world. And the high vibe people can want to leave the relationship because they start to feel like it is more the ego or the image or you that it's about. And I don't feel like it's a more just and fair relationship, you know? So some people could be at some phase of that within themselves. I would say some people who have went through those kind of situations enough, they're done settling more for a more worldly focused relationship. We all want stability, security. We all want people to put in work and effort to have their stability and security. But we also equally want people who are inspired by truth and love so that we have a good balance in our life. And if some of the people in our life, that's kind of not their truth, then some people are going to quit defending it, and people for a long time could have been kind of telling people and trying to inspire people to kind of move forward with them a little differently, and they kind of didn't want to see that they kept repeating old patterns, and eventually it's like, I can't stay in denial of the truth anymore, and I am moving forward with or without you. you know I can still be a loving and encouraging person in your life, but I don't want to keep repeating this pattern. And if you do, I wish you peace to go enjoy that pattern with someone else. So, for some people that just might be in the midst of it, and some people who were in it, and some people who left it, we could have gotten in relationships and we didn't realize we harness these energies kind of differently. And then those are things that we have to navigate in the course of a relationship. And some of them we can't uh, work through because both people have to be inspired within themselves to want to work through those things. And other people in our life, we could have had kind of these differences, but together we were inspired because we maybe love each other to keep working through those things. Not everybody has to look at life or live life or view life exactly the way you do, but if we have a common dream and we motivate and inspire each other and love each other, you know, we can work through those things because at a core foundational level, there is love there. So, what are they? The Knight of Pentacles, the Two of Swords, and the Two of Wands. So, the Knight of Pentacles is Virgo energy, earth sign energy like Taurus. And sometimes people's truth is, I do come from a more worldly perspective. I do want to be in a relationship. I want to have a job because the Knight of Pentacles wants to become the King of Pentacles, and the King and Queen of Pentacles are the only married through the deck, but it can also represent, I want to be successful in my career. I am willing to learn lessons in my career, maybe, but um, some people, but in high vibe, the King of Pentacles would be actually growing and maturing yourself also. And some people can get very good at their job and their career, and they can have more stability and security in their life, male or female, but maybe emotionally they didn't really grow and mature themselves in a way some other people could have. So we can meet people in the world. They seem stable, abundant, grounded, whatever. But some people can have a lot of skill, a lot of knowledge, expertise, stability, or security, but some of them can be more immature emotionally than some other people, right? And then we have the Two of Swords, which is Libra energy. Some people like to stay in denial of the truth. Some of them might be in denial that, they, in their Two of Wands, have this dream, but it's not to maybe be more just and fair or ever get more balanced within themselves. I'm tipped in favor of being more about the world or me, and I don't plan to get more balance within myself about it. That is going to be the driving factor in my life. Or some people could be in denial that they are kind of more about themselves, maybe are kind of bossy or controlling, immature, have a lack mentality, overwhelmed, kind of stubborn and prideful, aren't willing to learn lessons in life. That would be high vibe Virgo. And some people are like, no, I'm not invested in learning lessons in life, because that would mean I would have to look at life as an adventure to learn lessons. And maybe I don't. And other people do. I think life is about listening to your intuition. We have these dreams. We move forward in things, but then as we move forward in things, we kind of listen to our intuition. And some things are kind of like a stepping stone to that dream, just like we're 18, 21, and 25. But I don't want to stay 18, 21, or 25 all my life. This is a phase of part of the journey. And then, as I go, I will kind of listen to my intuition about how things are going in my life. And when I feel ready to detach from an old way of living life and viewing life, just like I had to quit being more like an 18-year-old to be more like a 21-year-old, I kind of have to let go of that old way of living life and that old dream. That had its time and its place, but I have a bigger dream. So it's part of the process. And I balance out my emotions about the fact that I am facing my fears to go on this new adventure. That might require, maybe I get a different job, maybe I move, just like when we were young, we maybe had to move out of home, we had to learn how to drive, you know, um, but we're willing to face those fears and we get out of our defensiveness because it's part of us continuing to grow and mature ourselves to get the justice we deserve. And sometimes we get in these more mismatched relationships where one person in their fire sign energy, they are inspired to learn lessons in life. They can be less prideful, less full of themselves, know that they have lessons to learn, have realized life isn't just all about them, and people aren't going to make life all about them, and they shouldn't make life maybe all about them. They are willing to get out of being more out of denial of being just more about themselves. If I want to be in just and fair relationships, it can't be just more about my way or the highway. You know, those people have their dreams. I have my dreams. And then we work together. Um, and that can be like a high vibe Five of Pentacles. The Two of Pentacles can be I'm maintaining balance within myself. I have my more worldly nature. I have my more loving nature. I maintain balance within myself to keep moving forward, more inspired by truth and love. And then I get in a relationship with someone else in their Two of Pentacles who takes responsibility for maintaining balance within themselves and learning lessons in life and being inspired by truth and love. And if I'm in relationships with people who are like that, we're probably going to keep moving forward together because our truth is the same. Now, there could be some people in the world, they are more shadowy. They're more about themselves, more about the world. a little bit more about the pride or the ego or the indulgence, and they think that's just and fair. And if those people are in relationships with people who I like to stay in denial of the truth that I'm supposed to heal and grow and mature myself, or it should be about love and love is supposed to be just and fair. I could think if I get in a relationship with someone and it's going to make me look like my dreams have come into reality, I like to stay in denial that it's supposed to be about love. And if I'm the one who has more of the things that people want, well, then I guess in a more shadowy Taurus philosophy, I think those people should balance out their emotions that they kind of have to indulge me in the relationship. I think that's just and fair. And if the other person has more of those things of the world that I want, and I want those things, well, then I guess I'll be the one to balance out my emotions and I'll indulge them. And that is how some people think and view life. That is their truth. And for other people, that is not their truth. But when some high vibe people won't stay in a relationship with someone who has that more shadowy view of relationships, they can really not understand it. Well, I don't know why you didn't want to stay in this job or in this relationship. It looks like our dreams were coming into reality. We had these things that, looks like we had justice in the world. It's like it might have had a lot of those things of the world that I want, but it's lacking being inspired by love, which they don't get because they don't really invest and want to see the truth because it is more about them and these things of the world. And that is like the most important thing. That's, the world tells us if we have these things and we have this certain image or status or we indulge in these certain things, that's like living the life, man. We got it going on. And they just might not be people. There is no cups here. In the Sagittarius energy, which is fire sign energy, that is kind of balancing our more emotional nature with our more fire sign nature. That's the only cup of love in this layout. I think, let's see. No, I think the world card is kind of Aquarius and Capricorn. So, we maybe can't understand why they live the life they do. And, if you're more inspired to be someone who's more independent, not so consumed, I mean, within reason, I live in the world. Yes, I want these things of the world. I want stability and security, enjoy some of the finer things in life, but it doesn't maybe consume me to the way it could consume. That's what the Ten of Wands can be, where it kind of consumes other people. I don't feel like I have enough status, image, or money. I don't feel like I'm getting enough attention. I don't think I get enough respect. I don't whatever, right? To other people, they're not as tipped out of balance about that. They're more just balanced within themselves that I'm going to go live my life, and if I'm happy with my life and I enjoy my life, there's always going to be people that I could have more than and there's always going to be people I could have less than. And if I wanted to put in a lot more work and effort to have more certain status, image, or money, or power, or social clout, I could. I guess that's what drove and motivated me. But, for some people, they're happy with the balance, and some people are not happy with the balance. No, we need more of that, or we need to go indulge in more of that. We'll be happier. We need to make our life more about that. And if we have more of those things, we'll be happier. Well, some people have been enlightened to the truth that things we can enjoy things, but it's really being in more authentic, loving, inspired, supportive, encouraging environments that make it all worthwhile. Having worked at different places in my life, you can work for people where it's like being under a black cloud every day. It's like, oh my gosh, you are versus being in an environment with people who are loving and encouraging and supportive. It's like, I will take less money to work here than to work there. And some people's like, that's crazy. You should just put up with that bullshit. And it's like, I'm going to work with these people 8 hours a day. I don't want to be in hell. I would rather be in heaven. And in my free will, I have free will to choose who and what I want to invest my time and energy and effort into and what's important to me. And for the people where it's more important to get the job done or whatever, then that's your free will choice. That's not my free will choice, and to each your own. Um, as some people are moving forward in their life, there's always going to be more shadowy people in the world who want to be the next person to indulge in a friendship or relationship with you. And I think high vibe people have learned some of these lessons in life. Are they willing to get to know people, treat them the way they like to be treated, get to know them, kind of try to get to know them to figure out kind of their truth and what drives and motivates them. And then when they could see that, oh, yeah, you're more about you or the ego or the image or the indulgence, yeah, I'm going to move on. And as they move forward, they're going to meet people that are more, kind of more on the same page as them. And those people will be happy they came up the path of life, just like when you're moving forward and maybe someone new comes in your community or your neighborhood or your workplace and you get to know them. It's like, oh my goodness, thank God. Because with these other people, I had to always have my guard up because shadowy energy also can just be immature, petty, envious, jealous, uh, defensive, and it's just difficult working with them, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, finally, some people that we can just go with the flow with. And, there's been things we maybe wanted to accomplish, but we couldn't get it accomplished because some of these people might have certain skills and talents, but they're not within themselves, they're not inspired to really put in work and effort. They want to kind of, I don't know, kind of just the status quo, or the minimum. And shadowy people definitely try to escape justice. Can I work here and can I try to get out of taking any responsibility or putting in more work and effort? And because, though, what I do bring to the table, you kind of just balance out your emotions about the fact that I'm never get out of my defensiveness or my immaturity, and never really get more inspired to really invest myself in trying to move this forward any differently than I have been. Like, I have my way of doing it and I'm going to keep doing it this way forever. And it's like, yeah, and we've kind of already found out, maybe even told you, that we really don't think that's just and fair. That, like, your office is a complete disaster and nobody else's is. Why is that? Why can't you get your stuff in a file cabinet? you know, and they keep thinking because they could be used to people indulging them, and they keep thinking people are going to indulge them forever, just like people who are kind of immature or bossy or controlling or stubborn or whatever. People can be very patient with them in friendships and relationships, but eventually justice comes and people are like, enough is enough. We're moving on without you. And then the shadowy people can try to hide the truth, try to confuse people about the truth, about why that job, friendship, or relationship didn't work out. So, what's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Aries energy that they might not see coming? The Six of Swords. Why? Because of the Ace of Pentacles. So, in high vibe, the Ace of Pentacles is seeing the truth, learning the lesson you're meant to learn. And when we add the one pentacle, because you wanted to get to the truth and you wanted to work through whatever was going on within you and quit feeling maybe stuck, if you felt like people were trying to confuse you about the truth of who they were, trying to move something forward, but it's not, doesn't seem to be moving forward in that way. It's kind of like in high vibe Sagittarius. I need to wrap my brain around this game of life. So it all really starts within me. And for me to get clear about my truth, and the Six of Swords is Aquarius energy, like the Three of Swords and the Three of Wands and the Two of Wands. I have a dream. And if I've been putting in work and effort to bring a dream into reality, but the dream I can only do my part. Other people equally have to do their part. And that's when we could see part of the problem. I need to work together with people whose truth is the same. Because in the Six of Swords, we're trying to move forward to calmer waters, to more balance. Here in the boat, we have like the inner child, the emotional nature, and taking action to move all three forward, balanced. I have my inner child nature, I have my emotional, creative, inspired nature, I have my worldly nature and things of the world, but all three are equally important. And sometimes we kind of left behind our inner child nature. No, no, no. We got to focus on these things. Well, that is our creative, inspired nature and our intuitive nature and our hopeful, believing nature. And some people wanted us to leave that behind. We could have left it behind. And so, what some high vibe people did that other people might not know about, because some of you are moving forward in life differently. And when we add the one pentacle to this five of pentacles, we get the six of pentacles. And the sixes can kind of talk about balance. And so the Six of Pentacles can be, I do have my Three of Pentacles worldly foundation and things that I am inspired by and motivated by. I also have my more loving, intuitive, creative, inspired nature foundation. And I want to a blend of both. So it's a balance of both. And that's kind of more when we are on our way to the Ten of Pentacles, of having true abundance in our life, because we're balanced within ourselves. When we're balanced, we move forward much more swiftly. And when we're in more just and fair and balanced friendships and relationships, those things move forward much more swiftly and smoothly. When there's someone out of balance, that kind of throws a cog in the wheel, right? And you could have done some work within yourself to listen to your intuition and to think about your dreams and your aspirations and where you want to go with your life, and could have realized, I can't let my more worldly nature and the things that I want kind of dictate my life, because then I'll make decisions more out of that. Staying focused in high vibe Aquarius on the big picture. Do I want some of these things in my life? Yes. But in high vibe, I'm going to let go of my more worldly, investing in it from a more worldly viewpoint. And I'm going to invest in it in high vibe Taurus of walking my truth, acting with character and integrity, holding myself to a higher standard, and take action in my truth and kind of walk the talk. And then maybe communicate to the world or people in my life what I think is just and fair. And if those people are motivated and inspired to move forward with me in that way, fine. If they're not, it's kind of like I've made peace with it, but no longer coming with, and that's not your truth. It has to be more just and fair and balanced. And some people are like, nope, I'm not doing that. That's not my truth. It's like, okay. So, and as you were doing this, you could have communicated to some people who you think are more on the same page as you, that I detached from this job, friendship, or relationship. I am looking to work with some new people, and willing to put in work and effort, to do my part. And some of those people could have said, yes, that's great. Let's work together. So some of you could have gotten a new job, a new friendship, a new relationship, or you're just still in the process of just doing that work within yourself to get more balance within yourself, to get out of your defensiveness, to go do that. But people are having new beginnings and people are taking action towards things. The more shadowy people probably still don't want to see the truth, don't want to see the truth about things within themselves or people in their life and things and how the world or whatever can manipulate them. And they've kind of probably accepted the truth that some other people have moved on. And if there were people that used to kind of indulge them, those people aren't willing to indulge them anymore, and they kind of see the truth of that. They could feel a little left out in the cold that shit, I thought that person wouldn't keep living and believing in themselves, and I thought they'd come back. But they're not. So then those people have to balance out their emotions about the fact that, you know, they have different ideas of what the dream life is and what they like to invest their time, energy, and effort into and what they think is just and fair. So the other people, though, will all keep repeating a pattern until we're willing to deal with some truth that stops us from moving forward, like shedding an old skin layer of ourselves to move forward in life a little differently, to take the lessons that we've learned. But some people, again, could be in denial that they could have some lessons to learn. So they could be a little prideful. But some people, the truth is, they are kind of immature, or they do try to manipulate people to get them to do what they want. And they might not want to see the truth, or that just is their way of operating. They think that's what everybody does, and they haven't been illuminated to the truth yet. So they'll keep repeating a pattern. And if they can find someone who is, it's kind of like if you learn lessons in life, regardless of how old you are, we have probably all worked with people. It doesn't matter if they're 45 years old, they can be like men and women, they can be like catty and bullies. So, everybody can have their own maturity level, and people will go try to find people who they think kind of act and interact and view life the way they view life. And with some of the people in our life, we just realized we could have just felt like, I don't know, there's things that they maybe haven't seen the truth of. Again, they have their idea of what they think is just and fair of how to conduct themselves in friendships or relationships or workplaces. And we don't agree. So we are having new beginnings, moving on, investing in things that seem more aligned with our truth, to have our dreams come into reality, while some of the people in our life and other people in the world are going on that journey also. We don't know all of them. Some of them we might meet as we move forward in our truth. But other people in the world are going to keep repeating an old pattern. So what's coming up for the people who in their Aries energy might just still not see the truth that love is what makes it all worthwhile? Having a job you love, being in friendships and relationships with people who are authentic and loving and encouraging. Uh, they haven't they're not really that type of person. Shadowy people can try to create the illusion they're that type of person, but eventually people come to realize that really isn't what drives and motivates them, and they kind of see through the illusion. What's coming up for the shadowy people they don't see coming? Karma. Why? Because of the Page of Pentacles. So karma is like the judgment card. We can all keep repeating certain patterns, but the karma judgment card just means there will be consequences for those ways of being. If you treat people in a more just and fair and authentic and loving way, there's no guarantee that everybody that you meet is going to treat you that way. 50% of the people probably will, and 50% of the people won't. But for the people who are the people who aren't being just and fair, or are being bossy or controlling or indulging in their more immature nature, they could think like, well, no, I can just manipulate the justice system. I can just hide the truth. I can try to confuse people about the truth. I can keep moving forward, and I still think my dreams will come into reality. You can't plant bad seeds and have a good outcome. If they get in relationships with people who are more mature than them, those people might indulge them for a while, But eventually, those people are going to call judgment on them because, again, in their worldly nature, they could find them to be immature. And again, other people can get in relationship with them. They could be more immature, but some people are motivated and inspired to work through their issues to free themselves from those things. And then they're kind of in a different energy than they were when they got in it. But so then they're ready to move forward in life differently again. And some of these people is like, I don't want to change. An end to change. I have a way of living life and viewing life. I want to keep doing this. Well, it can be hard to find other people who want to do, for one, more life just their way or the highway. No compromise, no working together. Well, what about I had my own dream? Well, you have to let go of your dream. That goes away. You come here and you make your life more about me. Well, again, the next person can come into the relationship and they could hope that maybe over time they'll change and be loving and encouraging and supportive, hoping that dream will come into reality, and it keeps not coming into reality. And eventually the other people call judgment on it. I can't keep doing this. Nothing ever changes. The shadowy energy is like dead and stagnant. It never gives birth to anything new. And you have to be willing to shed kind of some, again, look at the good building blocks, the not so good building blocks, what works, what doesn't. But they don't want to get rid of anything. And what they might not want to put an end to is indulging their more immature nature. Well, I think I should be able to indulge my more immature nature. Well, they just need to find someone else who keeps staying more immature. And if they can find someone like that, then they will have found the right relationship. But I think the more high vibrational people in their life, because some people's idea is, well, I'm kind of bossy or controlling or immature or codependent or whatever, self-centered. I want to look like I have what other people have. So I'm going to go try to get in a relationship with a loving person. That'll make me look like a loving person and a just and fair and balanced and mature person. And they go get in a relationship with someone like that. They're mismatched. They have a different philosophy of life. And those people can put work and effort into it for quite a long time, but eventually they're like, I'm leaving. Because nothing, and again, you could work through a lot of things in a relationship, but when it finally gets down to that core foundational truth of what ultimately drives and motivates you, the high vibe people want people who invest in truth and love. Have hope. Aquarius in high vibe is about having hope and faith that you can heal, that others can heal, that, looking at life from a bigger perspective, not getting so caught up in yourself and looking like a shining star in the world or it having to be all about you. And so they might end up ultimately in a relationship with someone like themselves, which they might not really like, because then they're in a relationship with someone else who doesn't want to change, who aligns with their more worldly, self egoic, defensive, maybe manipulative, maybe immature, materialistic, or indulgent nature. And neither one of them is someone, all indulging in it for what they can get out of it, but nobody's really offering love. And they could have thought that would make them happy, and I guess for some people it might, but for other people, it's then if they've been in relationships with people who are more authentic and loving, it changed them also. They're not the same person that they were before, but they could think, no, 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 you go. I'm just going to go back and do life the way I did it. But they're not the same person, you know, to a degree. It changed them some. It's one thing to say not to have been in a relationship with someone who's more just and fair and loving and encouraging. Well, then you can keep being in relationships with people like that forever because that's all you know. But then if you get in a relationship with someone who was more loving and encouraging and authentic and warm and really seem to be motivated and inspired to work together with you cooperatively and did, well, then you try to go back to the old way and way of living life, you're going to feel a little bit left out in the cold, like you didn't get justice. But if they get someone in their life who is kind of on the same page as them, and it has these things of the world or the things that they like to indulge in or being more about them or the world, they'll probably stay in it and call judgment on moving away from it, because ultimately those are the things that more drive and motivate them. But that would be a just and fair relationship. They're just not going to have what the high vibe people have in their life, because the high vibe people are looking for other people who are authentic and more balanced and more loving. And that wasn't the truth of who they were. So they might hide the truth that they could feel stuck, that their dream was that a loving person would kind of not keep loving and believing in themselves and come back and keep indulging them, but that person left. So now they're just balancing out their emotions, that they're repeating an old pattern with people who are more like them or trying to manipulate someone new. And there too, people can try to create the illusion, oh, I'm this much more stable, grounded, emotionally mature, pillar of society person. Then when they're in relationships with people where it does seem like they got it going on in the world, they kind of can't temper their more immature nature, and they do some things that aren't conducive to the relationship moving forward, and or think they should be indulged and want everybody else to put in more of the work and effort while they're being kind of more immature or bossy or controlling. And for a long time people can still have a certain illusion about the type of person they are. But as the high vibe people in their life keep moving forward and they keep maintaining balance within themselves, investing and kind of looking like a shining star in the world, it kind of becomes clear who's repeating an old pattern, and from relationships that they might get in, who seems to maybe like to be in relationships, possibly with people who are more codependent on them, where they seem like the more stable, grounded, mature person, or um, as they get in friendships and relationships with other people, it's just like an employer. I had a really bad supervisor at one place. She wasn't so bad to me, but she really disliked the person I worked for, and she wanted to fire that person, and she was atrocious to her. But the people who ended up in my job would leave because they couldn't stand kind of being in the environment. The other girl kind of refused to leave. So I was kind of them butting heads all the time. Um, but other people in the job I was at would end up leaving because this is so immature, and it's a supervisor who's acting immature. The other person wants to keep the job, so they have to put up with the bullshit. And but other people who don't have to stay don't stay. I wonder where I was kind of going with that. But yeah, they might get in a relationship with someone who's, you know, it's trying to find, we all can have our idea of the dream life. And as some people's are, I want someone to indulge me. Well, everybody's got their life circumstances, and some people, maybe because of their life circumstances, hey, I'm willing to, and they might be attracted to them, they might find them charming, they might hope that things will change over time, and they might willing to indulge them for quite a while. But unless they keep staying and are more codependent, some of those people eventually will leave too. But anyway, there we go, Aries. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.